Hey everybody, this is Lowly Jane, animal communicator and energy healer from animals-speak.com, and you're listening to Lowly Jane Animal Communication Podcast, the show that promises to open your mind and heart to the amazing world of animal communication, energy healing, and what I like to call interspecies therapy. Thanks for joining me. So, are you curious about animal communication and telepathy? Today I'll be doing a special Q&A episode all about animal communication and telepathy with some very curious questions and thought-provoking answers on everything you've ever wondered about animal communication. I hope this podcast can give you a greater understanding of how animal communication works and maybe even inspire you to book a session or learn to become an animal communicator yourself. Either way, we've got you covered. We offer sessions and animal communicator training workshops. Before we get started on the questions, let me tell you a little bit about myself. I'm an international certified professional animal communicator and pranic energy healer, and what I like to call interspecies therapy for all kinds of issues, including behavioral, physical and health, death and dying and end-of-life decisions, to help locate lost animals, talking to animals in spirit that have already crossed over, past lives, energy healing, and much, much more. I offer remote and in-person animal communication and energy healing for all kinds of animal issues, as well as providing animal communicator training workshops and mentoring. So now let's get started with our Q&A session. So the first question is about wild animals. Is there any reason for a wild animal to communicate with a human? Is it harder to talk to a wild or feral animal? And then do they communicate with domestic animals? And do they fear them? My answer is it's slightly harder to talk to wild animals or feral animals. They're used to hearing humans, but they think we can't hear them. So they pretty much ignore our human chatter. We have a lot of thoughts per day, and they listen to all of our chatter all day long, and we can't hear them, so they pretty much ignore them. If you can sit with them, it's possible to communicate with them. All animals can communicate with each other telepathically, and even domestic animals. And no, they do not necessarily fear them. The next question is, what evidence is there of interspecies communication? Well, I'm writing a book right now on animal communication, and there's a lot of newly released declassified data that shows evidence that human to animal communication was proven way back in the 1920s and 1930s by the Russians and Soviets. Some of these questions are crazy. I don't make these questions up. They come from others. Can skunks and cats be friends? Yes, animals don't judge or discriminate species, as long as they're not prey to each other. Next question, do animals prefer being wild or would they like to be with humans? It depends on their sole purpose and their job. For instance, domestic animals incarnate with us to be in service with us and to help us with our lessons, whereas wild animals prefer just being and may not have chosen to interact with humans at all. And rescued animals in human care at zoos and sanctuaries have shared with me that they have chosen this incarnation to be teachers for humanity and to be front and center with the humans. Next question, are domestic animals more or less sophisticated than wild animals in their communication as a result of exposure to humans? Great question. Possibly in regards to culture, but wild animals are more connected to the earth and actually have more knowledge. Their intelligence is astounding. I have talked to elephants. I have talked to a couple of orangutans. I've talked to tigers, lions, everything. And the things that they tell me would blow your mind. The geologic and history of the earth that they already know. They're like walking, talking libraries. It's amazing. So it's not that they necessarily know less because they haven't had human contact. But obviously, if they've had human contact, they're more indoctrinated in our culture. Next question. Is there a hierarchy in the animal kingdom? Yes, absolutely. Alpha roles and dominant versus submissive and the herd hierarchy. That's pretty much seen in all of animal kingdom. Next question. Do animals grieve when their friends die? Yes, very much so. Animals thrive with a mate, and grief can be very devastating to them, but they can also communicate to their departed friends after they've passed. Do animals cry? Yes, they experience all the emotions just like humans. Not all animals have tear ducts, though, but I have personally seen my dog cry when I sang to him. Happy tears, not sad ones. Do animals experience the same full range of emotions as humans do? Yes, again, they experience the full range of emotions just like humans. Humans are, after all, part of the animal kingdom. Next question. How can we tell if an animal is sad? They will exhibit behaviors that look like depression, lack of appetite, not eating, not drinking, no energy, moping around, just like a human does. I love this next question. Do animals have a sense of time? And if so, how does it compare to the human concept of time? They may not know or understand digital time or a clock, but they do understand the concept of time like in hours, days, or weeks, or even minutes. Whenever I leave the house, I always tell my dog how long I'll be gone, what I'm doing, and how long I'll be gone. And I'll say, for example, I'll be back in 2 hours. I'm going to do whatever. And they understand they'll be waiting for you at exactly that time. If you tell them what time dinner is, they will come and get you at the exact time of their dinner. They have a great concept of time. Next question. How do animals feel when they're made to fight each other? They feel aggressive, of course. They're sometimes trained to be hunters or killers. And once a job is assigned to an animal, they feel like this is their role until someone tells them otherwise. They're not doing this because they're angry. It's just conditioning. As I said, I don't make up these questions. Why do dogs attack babies? This is not always the case. At home, it could be a jealousy thing. They were your baby first before the baby arrived, like a jealous sibling. Or some animals may respond poorly to toddlers because they sometimes grab first. They grab their heads, which animals do not like, or sometimes they poke at their eyes, and animals may not appreciate this. Is it harder to communicate with smaller animals like birds or mice? No, in this case, size does not matter. But I would say that the animals with the biggest telepathic signals are dolphins and horses. They are very, very easy to talk to. Next question. Can you talk to insects? Yes, if they want to talk to you. I have actually talked to all insects, from butterflies to spiders to cicadas and even cockroaches. A large flying cockroach called a B-52 bomber in Hawaii. They fly and they land on you. And they hold no remorse about this. So a B-52 bomber talked to me when dive bombing me in Hawaii one night. He shared that they alert humans when they are going to have a lot of flooding water or rain. And I told him I would not harm him, but it was not appropriate to fly into my face or land on my body or anywhere on me. And as I was talking to him, I could see his antennas moving back and forth. And he, after that, stopped landing on me. And I woke up the next morning, and he was in the exact same spot I left him the night before when I yelled at him for landing on me. It's pretty amazing. Can rocks and plants communicate with us? Yes, if we have the same state as a plant or a rock, we could probably hear them. They are also beings. I talk to trees frequently. In fact, I did not have a green thumb until I became an animal communicator. And then I started having a much more symbiotic relationship with the plants and hearing from the plants what they needed so I can take care of them better. You can also program plants like a cactus, believe it or not. I do energy healing, so I know a lot of things like this. You can program a cactus for protection because they are beings, and you could also program rocks and crystals, which are a separate crystal kingdom, and can be called upon for healing or energizing. Next question. Do snakes and spiders know they scare people? That is a cultural thing. Not all people are scared by snakes and spiders. I love snakes and spiders. I think that's a cultural thing. That comes from films and movies, I honestly believe. That's not their purpose. They have feelings too, and Native American wisdom will tell you otherwise. Spirit animals, snakes are Kundalini energy, and spiders are very protective. That silk is protective, and silk garments are used in protection, especially when you're doing cleansing and energy healing. Next question. What do animals think when they kill other animals? In my experience, when they're catching prey, going after prey, they will chase the prey, and when it's apparent that the prey is not going to make it, the hunter animal takes a moment and they allow the soul to be released from the body. In other words, they're telling the animal, I'm going to eat you. And there's a moment of pause, and during that pause, the soul leaves the body. So when they start munching on the body or they grab it and bleed it, the soul is already gone. So the body is just a soulless body that they're eating. The other concept is survival of the fittest. Animals go after animals that are injured or weak. So that's another concept that keeps the symbiosis in nature. I like this next question because it relates to something I feel. Can animals tell when earthquakes are coming? Yes, absolutely. They are sensitive to electromagnetic fields that are changing. And I used to live on the Big Island with an active volcano. And before the volcano would go off, the wild pigs would come down from the mountain and go to the beach and start swimming in the ocean. So if you saw pigs on the Big Island swimming in the ocean, you know that a lava flow is about to erupt because they usually live high up in the mountains and then they come down to sea level. But I also experienced the same thing. I used to live in California, and people would call me an earthquake meter because I could tell you 5 minutes before an earthquake because I could just feel the geological changes and the electromagnetic field change. The last question is, what do animals think about the past? Do animals think about the future, and do they make plans for it? Animals usually live in the now, but like humans can be traumatized by something earlier in life or even past lives. They don't usually project their future too much or make plans. They live in the now. But sometimes things get stuck from past lives. In other words, something happened in a past lifetime, perhaps with their now person, and they made promises from another lifetime. So it's not that they're projecting, but sometimes the promises from the other lifetimes are left over. So they promise themselves they would do a better job in the next incarnation that they're with them. And usually there's some carryover from that. But they're not really projecting in the future. They're not really thinking about the past. That brings us to the end of this episode. I hope you had a much greater understanding of the inner workings of animal communication. Book your animal communication session now or join me for an upcoming animal communicator training workshop. You have nothing to lose and everything to gain, as well as opening your mind, heart, and spirit to your deep connection with your beloved animals. Visit my website at animals-speak.com or email me at lowlyjaneanimalcommunication@gmail.com. And Loli is LOLIJANE. Loli Jane Animal Communication at gmail.com. Join us next week for episode 28 on intuition, psychic, and empathy versus telepathy. I hope you enjoyed this podcast and were as amazed as I was when I first learned about animal communication and energy healing. I hope you enjoyed the show, and please rate and review us on Apple Podcasts and follow and subscribe for exclusive content. As always, love and gratitude for listening to the Loli Jane Animal Communication and Healing Podcast. This is Loli Jane. This podcast was created, produced, recorded, researched, and edited by Loli Jane, and this is a product of Loli Jane Animal Communication and Healing.